So welcome, this is Nicole and
Kimmie.
And this is the Nick and Kimmie Show. And we are doing our wrap-up of our first half marathon together in Disney, which was November, what was the date? 11th, I believe?
No, 9th, actually.
9th, yes.
We should just look at the medals.
Yeah, it would be a good idea, yeah. And we were in Orlando, Florida. It was 9th, okay. Yeah, it's the 20th at this point. My brain is fried. So, what was your favorite part of the
Wine and Dine?
Yep.
The fact that we didn't get to wine and dine.
Yeah, unfortunately.
We were also tired we didn't get to eat, but my favorite... I love the characters on the path.
Yes.
I do love that they've got something. I didn't think I could do it. I was terrified of sweepers, and I was very, very sick. But they have the way Disney does. The way Disney does. The way, yes, we're gonna keep all this in too.
Yes.
The way Disney does their marathons it's amazing to me, because when you hit that point where you're plateauing or you start to cramp or whatever, there's Lilo and Stitch right down the road. You're like, oh, okay.
I can do this.
There's music playing, or there's in the middle of the road there are these ginormous screens playing Fantasia.
Yeah.
Or the people at the halfway point going, you're halfway there, and they're all of course drinking and having fun at the Wine and Dine Festival, but it still is amazing encouragement the entire 13.1 miles to keep going.
What I kept telling her and Sheila the whole time was they want you to cross. They do. The goal of a Disney marathon is for you to actually experience the marathon experience. Because marathons are very hard to get into. You have to have times. A lot of people don't feel they could do it. I didn't think I could do it. It took me 2 full years to get to the point where I even thought I could even possibly contemplate it. And I ran my first in January with my husband. Before we were married, actually, which was like a family. We took our 4 kids and parents to Disney to watch us run, which was awesome. But the thing I love best is that as you're going, there's people all around. There's people of all different sizes, shapes, colors, backgrounds, costumes, and also physical disabilities. Like, they don't tell you no if there's something wrong with you. If you tell them you can do it, they are more than willing to work with you to make sure you can do it. So, although we ended up at the end of our particular corral, because this was their first race. So when we registered, they ended up in the last corral. I was in the corral before them, and then my husband Ed was in 2 ahead of us. So unfortunately, there are these people called the sweepers, and basically this whole thing just completely wigged her out, and it was like the whole day before she was like a lunatic is the only description I can give you.
Well,
she was like obsessing about this and looking it up online. And I'm like, stop! You're making yourself crazy. You're making me crazy.
What she's
Stop!
also forgetting to mention is I wasn't sleeping and I was sick. So
yeah.
Delirious.
Without delirious. I mean, the drive down alone should have made us all delirious. But
True.
22 hours in a car is just not my way to start a weekend trip. But it was a lot of fun, though, actually. A lot of interesting conversations. We wish we had cameras in the car.
Next time we
should have had cameras in the car. But the anxiety for someone who hasn't done it before was, I mean, her and Sheila were both panicking a little bit. So I promised them before the race even started I wouldn't leave them, which as it turned out was a wise decision on my part, mostly because after you cross the lines when your time starts. So as we're going, all of a sudden we're trying to get ahead of the sweepers to give this one a little bit of security.
They're just ladies with balloons
that are doing this.
Power walking. I don't care. If you see, look, people were sitting there, I'm walking with her, and then I'm like, do you see the balloons? Do you see the balloons? Do you see the balloons? It was like these elephants on parade. That's what I kept hearing in my head, and the thing is, every time you look back, I would see the balloon, because they fly above everybody, and you're like, crap, they're too close. At one point, where the track wraps around itself, so you go all the way to one point, and you wrap back around. I saw the balloons, I'm like, they're too close. Nicole's like, it's a mile that way, a half a mile that way, and a mile, you're telling me they're too close. They're like 3 miles back. I can see them.
Yeah, so at that point, we would speed up. So as we were getting into mile marker 1, Sheila caught a cramp. and was really starting to like freak out. And this one was having breathing problems, and she was having all sorts of things. So basically we ended up working out a system where we would let Sheila catch up. I mean, and Sheila basically told us to go. She made the decision that she and I had to finish this because we came down and did this together. But
we don't leave anyone behind.
We don't.
Specifically her.
The rule is you never leave a friend behind, so I stayed with them to make sure that everyone was okay. And in all truth, it wasn't, it wasn't a big deal because that way we were together anyway. It's much more fun to do these things as a group. Yeah. My husband likes to run by himself, so we just kind of let him go.
I don't think we could keep tabs on him anyway.
No, to be honest, he's doing this at a different pace. He's doing this really for his own mental. He wanted to shave time, which he did, and he picked up time on his 10K. It's just that he hit the wall right after that, so it took him a little longer than he wanted, but he still made it in under 3 hours, so he was a happy man. So once we figured out our system for you, me, and Sheila, Kim and I would run together, and we would let Sheila catch up, and then Sheila would get ahead of us, and then Kim and I would get ahead of her, and we kept doing that all the way around. And we kept planning on stopping at different characters, and the only one I desperately wanted to stop at, she misunderstood the signals. I'm saying, stop at the tree! Rafiki was standing there right by himself with nobody, and this one just goes, let's keep going!
There's a ginormous Christmas tree in front of, in the Animal Kingdom. They had set everything up for Christmas. There's a ginormous Christmas tree, and then there's the Tree of Life. She says, stop at the tree. My head goes, oh.
Tree
and
of
then
Life.
She says, the Tree of Life. I said, that's the tree I thought you were talking about. Not a problem. Because at that time, I didn't know there was a ginormous Christmas tree with Rafiki right by it with no line.
Yes, well, which we couldn't have possibly have known, because as you're running, there's characters along the whole route, which is great in different spots. But sometimes it is hard to stop for them, especially in our case.
With the sweepers.
With the sweepers causing anxiety and trauma and disaster. So we didn't stop for a lot of characters, which the last time I stopped, last time I did this, I stopped quite a few times, and the family made fun of me that I actually lost 11 minutes stopping for photos and characters and other fun things that were going on the road. But we didn't do it this time, so that's fine. But so we got through, and we only took pictures at the mile markers, the important ones. So 3, 6, 9, and 12. So when we got to 9, my phone was almost dead. And I'm trying to get her to get her phone out because I want a picture just to send to the family. And she's like smiling, and I'm like, where's your phone? I'm like going like this.
And there's this lovely woman going,
camera, something? Yeah.
She had her headphones on and everything too. She's like,
yeah. So, and everyone's great because they will help everybody else take pictures as we're going. So everyone, it's a real community sense. This particular marathon group is really, a lot of people do it every year, and they do it as a group, and people come back. And one group I ended up running with ran into people they had run with in California. Okay, 6 months before, they recognized them. They ended up in the same group. So as I'm running, I'm listening to this conversation thinking, wow, this is such an odd experience to think that people that live on completely different coasts have now run into each other 2 times in 1 year running in a half marathon. And the one person basically said that she was told she'd never be able to run again because she had a repair on her knee, and this was her goal, was to be able to get to this point, and she wasn't running at her normal speed, and the whole group just stayed with her and just made it so that she could get through. So my decision to stay with you guys wasn't any different than that. It was I wanted them to experience the whole thing and get to the end. And the whole goal is to get this, which is this beautiful, very heavy medal.
Serious medal.
It's a very serious medal. This one's got Mickey Mouse on it with a tray with half an Epcot, interesting, with grapes hanging off it, because this is technically the food and wine half marathon. Not that we got any food or wine out of it. They give you cheap beer, which makes no sense.
Well, most people just wanted beer. But I mean, when you got inside, there was actual wine.
Yes, and I wanted my glass of champagne, which we have yet to actually have, so we have to have that as a group. But the experience itself is really very nice. And the thing with this one is that aside from the anxiety of sweepers, she was having anxiety of drinking too much because she was afraid she'd have to pee. So she didn't drink, because on the way down, her lovely wife had to make us stop every 2 hours. Why? Because she's got a teeny tiny bladder. So we would literally have to stop every 2 hours along the lovely 22-hour drive from New York down to pee. So this one got it in her head, oh, I don't want to pee the whole time, I don't want to pee the whole time. Well, I won't pee.
It was porta potties. They ran out of toilet paper in some of them. I mean, it's bound to happen, don't get me wrong, I'm not upset about it. But when you're in the park, you can actually run and they keep the bathrooms clean, and you can actually use the bathrooms in the park.
Awesome.
But I was so paranoid of being swept because, like I said, if you see them,
yeah, you're too close.
They're too close to you.
Yeah.
So every time I would turn around, there must have been one woman who was 6'12", or well, that would be 7 feet, but like 6'8" or whatever, just sitting there holding the very edge of the string of the balloon.
Yeah, she was tall. She was very tall.
Because you could always see usually it's like 4 or 5 people across, I think it was. You saw the one in the middle.
Yeah, that was it.
And it was like, it was stuck, it was the eye of Sauron just staring at you.
Oh my God, such a quote.
I am, right?
She does that, it's not good. So, but, you know, the truth is that if you haven't done one of these before, Disney, I would recommend it to anybody. Aside from the fact they make it so family friendly. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff going on if you have kids. Like, our kids ran in the January one. So like Lee ran in the kids Mickey Mile and the little ones ran in the 200-meter dash. Actually, Evelyn came in 3rd in her age group, and we were shocked because we have this awesome picture of her in like mid-stride. It's amazing. I had no idea she was that fast, actually. And then Max and Sophia, the same thing. It was just great. But it's one of those things that Disney, you know, I'm a Disney dork, I fully acknowledge it. And even my husband is, even though he doesn't like the word dork being used in his general direction ever.
He's a Disney connoisseur.
I don't really care. He's a Disney dork like I am. But they make it so that you want to do it. That's the whole thing. You really want to get through it. So now we have other ones we now want to do. So, you know, it's funny, as we go through our footage, which will be flailing up behind us shortly.
Or cutting in between.
Yeah. You know, there were moments when both of us were like, okay, we have to get through, we have to do whatever. And, you know, and I had the GoPro on and I was running with it, and I've never run, and I didn't know how to run with the GoPro on, because I've never, other than walking around with it the first day I got the harness, I've never run.
We also wore the chest harness too tight.
Apparently, so which would explain why my back hurt.
Yeah.
So, and then at one point I didn't like the angle, so I took it off and I'm running, holding the GoPro like this, and we had a hand flip it because we didn't have something with the other.
My GoPro doesn't. I have an older version, and the night shooting is not as nice.
Yeah.
Whereas hers could actually, it's much better.
Oh, we'll see.
But you know, there's the snippet of. What is it when you left me, and then she's like, "Hi, I just left Nikki and Kimmie," and I'm like, "Huh?"
Alright, so I separated from Kim and Sheila for a little bit so I could catch a little bit of time, because last time I did 3:11, and because I was determined to help them get through, I lost a little bit of time. But, as you can see, I've now made it to mile marker 10. So, let's keep going.
You left me, and you made a nice little video of leaving me.
I did. I was like, okay, I had to leave him. Because at that point, I really wanted to try and catch up just a little bit of time at that point, which I caught up enough that I could go to the bathroom in a real bathroom, and that was kind of my goal.
When I tell you that when I was done running, that I went to the bathroom in Epcot, and I have never been so happy.
To have that.
I had to pee mile 8. Out of 13.1.
And you held it.
And I held it.
Yeah, I held it till 11. I did. Because I was like, all right, at that point, 11, I knew I was like in the home stretch. At that point, if I caught up any time, it was awesome, but I wasn't really worried about it at that point.
Yeah, so and then there, at one point, I could no longer breathe. I had all of the mucus in my sinuses rolling down my throat, so I was gagging.
Yeah, we don't recommend running sick. So just keep this very clear that she did not go to her doctor before our road trip to get proper medication. So bad.
Well, we both need to. We both have a tendency that right before we leave, we work extra hours. We do as much as humanly possible because we don't like to leave on somebody else's plate our work. It's just not appropriate.
And then I also have kids, so and luckily for me, my parents are willing to help and tend and take care. But there's still school stuff and homework and whatever that goes along with children. So
going to a doctor wasn't possible.
It wasn't on the list.
And before I got in the car, I felt okay. But then all of a sudden, as Nicole called me quite profusely, I was a very deep voiced drag queen.
Yes. It was a lot of fun.
It was really bad, severely so.
It was worse coming home though, because you had almost no voice coming home.
I couldn't talk coming home actually. It hurt. Every time I used my voice, it hurt. But at one point, literally, my calf was flexed and it felt like the muscle was being ripped off the bone. And I was like, all right, just work through it. And then all of a sudden, the hamstring on the same leg, it was my right leg, which I've had knee surgery on, it felt as if the muscles were tightening up so much that I couldn't extend my leg. I had to keep it bent.
Even as you were going? Even
as I was going, yeah. It was very, very weird. And at one point, I literally, I'm gonna just roll the really bad footage if it actually looks good.
Just past mile 10. Running as much as I can, but I'm having problems breathing because I'm sick. but a little running and power walking never hurt anyone. And on top of that, we get to see Ralph. They showed a piece of paper saying eminent domain. They built an apartment building saying progress was to blame. We got a man. 3.1 to go. I got this.
The truth is that, like, you know, neither of us trained particularly well, which is our own fault.
No, we didn't.
You know?
This time we didn't.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's something that we're going to change for the next one going
Well,
forward.
I've been running.
Yes.
Because I'm running a 5K on Thanksgiving.
Yes. Yes, she's going to do a turkey trot here in town, or one of the towns around here.
Oyster Bay.
So the problem is that, you know, we both have really busy lives. And although I have plenty of people in my life that run every day or every other day and they are just as busy, when I get home from work, if I have spare time, I like to spend it with the kids because our schedules are complicated and I do share them with their dad. So, you know, I don't always get them every single weekend. So, you know, it's like my husband makes fun of me. He's like, you need to make time for yourself. And he's right, I do. But I'm still a mom first. So that's my excuse, as I put it, to not run. But I'm trying to do it at work now because I have enough of a block at work that I can work it in. So hopefully we'll have better training going forward.
Better training and better planning. The funny thing is we had actually registered a long time prior.
In May.
And then all of a sudden we were like, oh crap, we gotta go.
Yeah, and then we did not want to spend the $600 and something per person on the tickets. We said, oh, road trip.
It's also holiday time.
Oh yeah, and that was the other thing. It was a holiday that weekend. It was Veterans Day weekend, so it was even more expensive. But so we did it as a road trip, and which was a lot of fun actually, because you know when you spend that many hours in the car with people, it does really bond you as a group. And poor Sheila
in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and poor Sheila has now been subjected to some very interesting Nicole stories that I don't think she actually believes some of which are real.
I also think, truthfully, if you take Nick and I and put us in a room, it's bad. Well, if you lock us in a closet with somebody, they're gonna come out just be like, oh my God, Lord, what the hell was I just partaking in?
Yeah, poor Sheila has been subjected to quite a few hours of my crazy life stories, which are humorous at best.
We ought to just add that as a little series, a little snippet. But
some of them are just, some of the sorority ones are just spectacular. But I promise not to use any names or disclose any real interesting information.
Buffy divided by Sam equals Jessica.
Yeah, pretty much in my world, unfortunately for me. But it's funny.
This is absolutely cruel. Absolutely cruel. We'll go.
Here we go.